Hey, how you doing? This is John. Today I want to show you how to make a gravestone from some plywood. And the first step's going to be we're going to put this stone paint on there to give it a rough stone-like finish. And then we're gonna paint it and make it look like an old stone that's got a lot of weathering and then cracks. So let's get on to the first part of the video. Alright, so some of the things you're going to need for this project is paint, and you're going to need some gray primer, and you're going to need some of this. It's called Make It Stone by Krylon, and this has a little bit of little flecks of color to simulate like a sandstone, and this color is actually called travertine tan. I don't know if you can see that, but travertine tan. I'm also going to use some burnt umber paint. This is like a hobby paint that you get from the craft store. It's a dark brown color, like a muddy brown. The other thing you're going to need is some sand wall texture paint. This is bare sand wall texture, and that will give us the rough texture for the first coat to make it look more like stone. So some of the supplies I'm going to be using, tools I'm going to be using today is a putty knife, and this is a plastic spatula, and it's flexible, and just a screwdriver or a can opener, and just a little thing of water is probably all we're going to need. So when you open this stuff, sometimes you have to mix it up, and this is just a tire iron, but you can mix it with anything. And I want the consistency to be something like maybe like melted ice cream, just where it's kind of creamy like this, and then that's about good. You don't want it too watery, but just about like that should be good. Alright, I'm going to be using a putty knife. This, I guess, is a 3-inch putty knife, and I'm just going to be grabbing about that much, and I'm just going to be just getting it on there, just like you'd be doing a repair. And I'm not being like real careful at first, because I'm going to go over it with another plastic one. And you basically just press it and get a real thin skim coat. So I'm just doing it like this and putting about that much on. It takes a while for it to dry, so you got plenty of working time. But I'm just getting a thin coat on there, then I'm going to go back and sort of smooth it out. What I do is I just kind of sweep away from the edges and coat the edges this way, because I have a lot of extra on here, so I'm just kind of using my knife to go pull it off of the tombstone and try to get those edges like this, just kind of sweeping off the edge rather than trying to put on this way, which doesn't really do well. So now I'm going to take my spatula, my plastic spatula, and I'm going to go smooth it out a little bit. It doesn't have, it's sand, it's a sand coating, so it's not going to be perfectly smooth, but I'm trying to get the lines out of it, these little putty knife lines. So I'm just going to do this, and you know what you can do is you can dip it in water and it'll help. So what I do is I get a little bucket of water and I just dip it in there, and it's like doing cake frosting. Just wet it a little bit and then you can smooth it out. Just want to get the trowel lines out, and you can actually use your fingers too a little bit. Just smooth it out like that. Just sort of, so it doesn't look like there's any lines there. Gives it more of a natural look rather than a stucco look, which is like supposed to be like a very rough. Alright, so I zoomed in here so you can see there's a line right here. So what we're going to try to do is I just wet my fingers and I'm just going to go over this line like this. Try to get it a little smoother. I wouldn't say you want to get it too smooth, but just take the lines out of it. But if it's bumpy, you're not going to be able to see it really, because when you spray the stone paint on there, it'll cover up all the imperfections for the most part. So just take some water, kind of re-wetting it, and just work over those areas that may be a little too bumpy. Okay, why this stuff is, after you just put it on, now that you got it all smoothed out, what I'm going to want to do is put cracks in it. So I'm just going to kind of make up a crack. And my method is you just make it like a lightning bolt where it's all jaggedy. And this is my, and then I usually break it off into two. And I'm just using this little nail punch tool with a little point on it. You can use it like a pencil would probably work too. And then like after you sort of do the crack, you sort of have to clean up the lines a little bit. I did it with a screwdriver last time. If you want to do it with something bigger, just do it with a screwdriver. But you sort of have to, when it dries, you can sort of push these little crumbs away. So it gives you a nice crack there. So let's do another one. So we're going to do another crack at the top here. So I usually just start, sometimes I just start in the corner because it seems like maybe it would crack in the corner. And just work it down. And maybe it breaks off into another little crack here. Like that. There's no real science to doing cracks. But you can sort of, later when it dries up a bit, you can sort of just clean it up a little bit. Or you can clean it up now. Doesn't matter. And you could actually probably do this after it's dry too. I just have not. So you can, you know, do whatever. Do a real thick crack on the side over here. Just brush away the crumbs there. So when you paint it, there'll be a nice like gouge in there. And of course, the thicker the layer of the sand texture, the thicker the crack's going to be. So I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go with like 3 cracks, and you could do more, do less. Doesn't really matter. Now that this stuff has dried, it says it's about a 2-hour drying time, so it's nice and dry. So we're gonna spray. Next, I'm gonna spray it with the stone texture paint, and just depending on how thick you want the color, which this is kind of a tannish orangish color, you can spray it on a little lighter or a little darker. It's just personal preference. I'm probably gonna give it like a light coat just so it has that those little speckles all over in an even, kind of an even tone. So that's what I'm shooting for. Don't you hate it when you're trying to shoot a video and it's nice and quiet outside, there's not a lot of, and then this guy starts up with the power sander, so it's going, I hate it. So we're gonna press forward and hopefully overcome the sanding noise, whatever that is. Oh, he just shut it off, so we're good. Okay, I just read the instructions on this paint, and I did not know this. It says, shake for 10 seconds because, what does it say? Overshaking may result in a loss of texture. I did not know that. Last time I did this, I shook the hell out of it. So I thought because it's a thick paint that you have to shake it, but I guess not. Anyway, so I was gonna say, hey, shake this good, but 10 seconds I guess is good enough. I guess it messes up the texture. So I just got this propped up with a little piece of wood down here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and paint it now. And you can paint it from a good distance because it covers really thick. I'm just staying back like 1.5 feet, because if you go too close, it's gonna do this, and it's gonna be all concentrated. So I want this like nice and spread out. And it does have a texture too, so it's going to give it kind of a fleck, kind of marbly look. And if you go darker, it just gets more orange. But I kind of want it a little bit light. But we're going to see what it looks like if I spray more paint on it. A little thicker. See, it's getting a little orangier there. And sometimes it gets wet on the bottom, so sometimes the stuff runs a little bit. So it looks like sand, kind of. Yeah, I like that right about there. I guess on the camera it's hard to see, but in real life it's very tan. Now that it's painted, I wanted to give you like a close-up look at what this looks like. You can see it has kind of a sand-like texture here. right there. And it's also got these little black flecks, and I think it's got little white flecks too. But from what I see on the camera, it's not picking up the color very well. I don't know why, but this is it when I put a really thick coat on this. So I wanted to compare the two. This is one I did a couple years ago. You can see, I'm not sure why this one's so much darker, but this one is very light. And by the way, this stone, they actually have colors, and it's called travertine tan. And maybe this one I used a different color. I had a light one and a dark one, so this must have been a darker. But you can see how the dark specks are a lot more, well, maybe you can't see it in this camera. There you go. Dark specks are a lot more darker than these are. But so it's just a little bit of a difference. Plus this one's actually been aged with darker paint around the edges and stuff. I used a lot of gray paint in there. So I hope to make this one look more like this one when we get done. Alright, since I'm trying to make this one look similar to this one, I'm going to use this one as a model right here, so I have that there. So what I'm going to try to do is, I'm going to go around with my gray primer, and I'm going to just lightly go over this to give it sort of an airbrushed dark look, like it has mold or mildew on there, or whatever gets on there. So I'm going to go around the edges and give it a dark look, and I might just go over and mist this whole center section, and it will actually darken the whole thing, but you can't tell. If you do it far enough away, it'll just darken the whole thing with a bit of a gray look. So that's what I'm going for. Okay, so the process of doing this is basically I'm just giving it some light gray color around the outside, starting off kind of light and going around the outline of it to give it a bit of a mold look and old and a little bit of dirt. And I'm just gonna stay far back, maybe a foot back, and just go around and spray the edges, and start off light and then get darker. Usually if it needs to get darker, you can just go back and spray it again, and sort of use it like an airbrush technique where you're sort of doing it lightly and then slowly darken it. And then I'm going to start spraying toward the middle of it to give it take the overall tone down, because it was very, very light colored. And so it's just giving it some moving the spray can back, so it just, the overall tone of it is getting darker. And as you move the can back, the spray is very light, so it gives it a more even tone. And that's about it as far as just that part of the aging. Okay, we're done with the gravestones, and you can see from where we started, this looks a lot different. You know, darker and dirtier and more cracks and everything. And so I always want my gravestones to look sort of have their own character, and one will be slightly darker and have different features than the other one, instead of as opposed to have them all look the same tone. I try to use different colors of paint and vary the amount of like primer I put on there to give it darker tones and lighter tones. So you have a bunch of you have a big variety. Besides, you know, the different designs, you want different colors, because gravestones aren't always like the same color. So you get a nice variety of the color in there. Okay guys, so that's the tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that helped you out. And don't forget to click the subscribe box up here, and you know, I'll be having more videos, so whenever you subscribe, you'll see the new videos come up on your homepage. So okay, take it easy. We'll see you later. Toy-torial. Did it help your toy-torial? Help my toy-torial. I think it helped my tutorial. Yeah. Let's do one more of those. Some of the first things you're gonna need. Here goes a plane. It's right overhead. It's taking off from Sarasota Airport. Some of the other things you're gonna need is a putty knife.